who are older than I am, and they're like, oh, but I don't want to do the TikTok and I don't want to do this. And I watch some of these videos of seniors on social media, and they are crushing it. They are funny, they have an audience, and they're not all like subdued grandma. Some of them are F-bombing all over the place and looking like divas. And there's a place and a time for everybody. You just have to give yourself permission to learn and get through the hard stuff.
When life's visible and hidden battles make you doubt that peace, love, and full-on living are possible, We Win Within brings the proof. Guests crack open their great stories that may overlap with what each of us carries, sharing raw truths, hard-won discoveries, and triumphs that illuminate the road for us all. I'm Hindi Stegman, daughter of Holocaust survivors, speaker, coach, and fellow journeyer in life, inviting you to listen, look inside, and claim the champion already rising in your heart.
So, hi, everybody. I'm Hindi Stegman, and I'm your host for the We Win Within podcast. And you're in for a treat today. We have an amazing woman. Her name is Michelle Vismaya Rubin. Some people know her as Michelle. I know her as Vismaya. And Vismaya is going to take us on a journey of how she got from point A to point B, of what her why is, and so many other things. So, welcome, Vismaya.
Thank you. Super excited to be here. We have not had a conversation like this in a very long time. And life has changed, so I'm excited to be here to share with you and with your audience some of the changes that have been happening.
Great. So, how far back do you want to go? Where do you want to start in your journey? When you were a little girl, when you were a teenager, when you were what?
Probably around 1995.
Okay.
So I had always had a dream of being an attorney, and I did the LSATs. I applied to law schools. Truth is I don't do well on standardized tests until recently. So I didn't get into any of the schools that I wanted to get into. I didn't get into any schools actually. So one of my friends kept saying, why don't you be a substitute teacher while you're waiting it out and figuring it out? I'm like, teaching? Who wants to be a teacher? That's crazy. Long story short, I got my teaching, my substitute license. I went in, I taught a math class, and I happened to be at the school that my brothers went to. And the kids were like, oh my God, miss, you're better than our teacher. Like, you should be a teacher. You're better than our math teacher. And I'm like, no way. I went home that night. I called my cousin, who was a nuclear physicist. He was brilliant. And I said, Teddy, here's the deal. They want me to, these kids, they keep telling me, go back, get your teaching certificate. I'm like, I have a bachelor's degree and I got it in 3.5 years and I don't want to go back to school. And he said, in 2 years, you can do nothing and you'll be in the same place. Or you go, you take the classes, you teach for a while, you figure things out, you do whatever you need to do. He goes, and you don't have to do it forever. He said it could be, short time, but you'll have something in 2 years that you can look back on and go, wow, I have a teaching certificate. Truer words never spoken. So I ended up going, got my teaching certificate, and started teaching in a public high school. I taught for 6 months in one of the schools that my brother went to, and afterwards they were like, we don't have space for you. You need to go somewhere else. So fast forward, in that time, you had to take every interview that you were given. And I remember I went to a school, and it was a middle school, and I did not want middle school. Like, middle school teachers they have their own type of sainthood. Like, they are amazing because those kids are crazy, in my opinion. So I'm like, I want high school. So I went to a middle school interview and they said, well, what would you do if a kid called you racist? And all of a sudden, it must have been divine calling because I was like, I would cry. So I knew I wasn't getting the job. And then I got the next interview, and the principal kept saying, and if we hire you, 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 and like I got aggravated, like if you keep hiring, if you hire me. And finally I looked at him and I go, listen, if you hire me, the only thing I can promise you is that I will do my best. And I stayed in that school for 20 years. And I started out,
Wow.
yes, I started out teaching math, and then I was asked to teach a character development class that I basically revised and created curriculum based on the 7 habits of highly effective teens. And I taught a Martin Luther King class of nonviolence based on the principles, King's 7 principles of nonviolence. And I taught peer counseling. And then they said to me one day, this isn't as important as teaching writing. And I was like, oh. So I said, well, if I have to teach writing, I'm going to do it my way. So I had my kids read articles about gratitude and breathing and the dangers of eating too much sugar. And so that's in a nutshell how it started.
So, what kind of high school was it? Was it in a wealthy neighborhood? Was it places where the parents were really big on education?
Quite the contrary. It was inner city, and a lot of my students were gang members. I remember one time an assistant principal coming in and saying, "You know who that kid is?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And I called him his nickname. He goes, "He's one of the biggest gang leaders in a certain area."
Gang leaders.
And I thought
Wow.
to myself, I'm like, I don't need to know that. Like, I that's not what I need to know, because as far as I was concerned, if I walked up to him and I like gave him a little poke in the head, I'm like, come on, man, do your work. He's like, okay, miss. So he was not that way with me. He didn't behave that way with me. Um, when they had me teach the nonviolence class, it was interesting because it was February, it was the middle of the year, it was my second year teaching. I had just come back from India. And he's like, well, here you go. We handpicked, some of I don't want to call them the worst students because they were not the worst students. They were troubled teens. They were handpicked to be in this class. And they walked in and they sat on opposite sides of the room. Like there was clearly some beef going on between the different kids in that class. And I thought to myself, how is a white girl from the suburbs, a Jewish white woman from the suburbs, going to make a difference in this community? I'm like, God, just come through me. And it was probably one of the best, most powerful experiences I've ever had. By the end of the year, I said, I don't care what you do, but by the end of the year, you're going to create a project. Every one of you has to participate, and you have to show me that you understand King's philosophies of nonviolence. And by the end of the year, every one of them participated, and it was magical. So,
So, do you think the fact that you were only a couple of years in as a teacher, that you hadn't gotten soured yet, that you still had that optimism that you're going to make a difference really helped? Or what was it? How did you treat them differently than some of the other teachers might have treated them?
part of me wants to say yes, that's the way it is, but then I can't say that's so, because throughout my whole career, like I would do little challenges, like I would do little community service projects with them, and it was always volunteer basis. And I believe strongly that when you give kids a chance to shine, and that almost like makes me cry, when you give them a chance to shine, they shine, and they will shine brighter than you could possibly have imagined. I had created a project. I saw something on the internet. There used to be a group in South Florida that would collect bottle caps. And I posed it as a question. I said, would you guys be interested in doing this, collecting the plastic bottle caps that normally get tossed and can't be recycled? And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And I said, okay. I had about 120 kids. They said, how many should we collect? And they were like, 500. I'm like, I'm not wasting my time for 500 bottle caps. You need to think bigger. Like, let's blow this up or not do it. So I think we came up with like 5,000 or something like that. By the time the project ended, we had probably 27,000 or 32,000
Wow.
plastic bottle caps. I had kids walking the track who never walked the track. Parents were collecting them. It became like this project that everybody wanted to participate in. And then at the end of the day, they would stay after school and help me sort the plastic. So going back to your original question, I think when you give them space to shine, they shine. I also used to tell little Bubba Meisters to my students, little not truth stories. I would tell them, in the first day of school, please don't tell this to anybody, because if you do, I'm going to deny it and you're not going to look good. I said, you were handpicked to be in my class because you're part of the smartest ninth graders. I said, and you can't say that to other people because that's not a nice thing to say. And nobody wants to hear that they're not in the smartest class. And they're like, this, that's not true. And I go, oh, yeah, it's true. I've been here the longest of all the writing teachers. So you're handpicked. And I don't think it's because at that point, I had been there almost 20 years. So I think it was a mixture of my naivete in the beginning and my wanting and my desire to make a difference. But I believe that, I mean, I won't say that I didn't get a little tainted by the ends because I was a little frustrated. I was older, but I've always lived by that philosophy. When you give kids a chance to shine, they will blow your mind.
Well, isn't it true that in life, when we look at someone, it depends on what our filters are and what we think of them. And that's an unseen energy, right? So if you look at someone and you think in a demeaning way, oh, they're like this or like that, and you give off that vibe, somehow they feel it, don't they?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a
And
doubt.
and the opposite. You can see someone that looks like they're from, sleeping on the street and whatever, and you show them loving light, and all of a sudden they sit up a little bit, right? So you
For
shine
sure.
your inner light on those kids to elevate them internally. They didn't even know what hit them.
It was funny because a couple years ago, I filled out a something I saw online from Matthew McConaughey's wife, Camila McConaughey. And she had posed a question like, what are some things you would do in the summer with your kids? And I said, well, I taught high school and I used to have them keep gratitude charts, and I shared a little bit about that. And the next thing I know, I get an email, and it was around the Jewish holidays. Months had passed and I completely forgot about it. And she's like, oh, by the way, you were selected to be in this magazine. And I shared the magazine on social media, and then people started to share it, all over. And some of my kids thought that I had died and that they were writing it as like, she died. This is what she did in her classroom. And it was very interesting to see some of the comments. Now, would I like to say that every student loved and adored me? I would love to say that, but that's not the case. So, but it was very beautiful to see, some of the comments that were made. And with teaching, you never know the impact you make. You have no clue.
And so often it is that one teacher that can make the difference in the life of their student. And you have no idea who you impact, right?
Right. And that's probably the biggest gift, I think, of being an educator is being able to shape minds and, do crazy things and like you said, shed light. I had kids my last couple years teaching when I was doing writing, like right before the exams would happen. I was like, we're going to learn mantras and we're going to start practicing a little bit of deep breathing and meditation. Call it what you will, whatever your religion allows, that's what you call it. I don't care. So we put the music on and we have, I bring essential oils and they pass them around and smell them. And a kid wrote me a letter, and I thought this kid, all he wanted to do was sleep in my class, never paid attention to me. He says, I want you to know that I've been in the military, and I'm able to share this because he sent me a testimonial. He sends it to me. He's like, I've been in the military, and he says, if it wasn't for you teaching me mantras and how to repeat affirmations to myself, he says, I would have quit. I can't tell you how many times. So, the message is for people starting over, for anybody, we sometimes think that our voice doesn't matter, that we can't make an impact. And the truth is that with social media, with podcasts, with what we're doing here, we don't know the impact of our messages. We don't know who's listening. And the only thing I would say is keep showing up, keep putting those seeds out. There's times that I don't post for a while and people will be like, what happened to you? What's wrong with you? Are you okay? Well, nobody liked my post. Nobody said anything. So how do I know people are even watching it? And that's the beauty. We don't know.
Absolutely. All right. So now let's fast forward. You completed your 20 years of teaching. And what made you decide it was time to move on? And what did you move on to?
So I knew that teaching wasn't going to be my forever career, even though there were times that I loved it. By the time I was done, I was burnt out. But what made me finally say now is the time is, how do you teach your students to go for their goals, to play big, to take risks, to do all these things, and then be too afraid to do them myself? And I was petrified because I had a steady income, I had great health insurance, I had the possibility of retirement benefits, um, steady job. I wasn't going anywhere. I was 20 years in the system and I could do it with my eyes closed. And something inside of me said that you cannot tell these kids to to go for their biggest, wildest, craziest dreams, and then you sit back and not do that. So I pulled the plug and said, I'm out.
And what did you jump out to?
So I had been making gratitude bags for a few years before I stopped teaching. And then a couple years later, I was selling my gratitude bags. I went to a funeral directors conference. Never knew they existed. So I was going to sell some memory bags to these, that was my goal. And I remember I was sitting there and I was watching these two women. They had these white, big old boxy t-shirts and they had some sayings on them and they were super cute. But the shirts were not cute. They were not pretty. They were big, boxy shirts. And I thought to myself, I go, I would never be able to wear that. I would look like a linebacker. So I came home. I sat with my lunch crew, which was, my dream team at the time. And I said, well, what do you think about this design? What do you think about that design? And that's really how my shirts came about. The Living in Gratitude Today swag started. It was sitting in my little lunchroom in my classroom with my two friends, and we started talking. And hashtag grateful was my main seller for probably 8 to 10 years. And this is also one of my, if I could go back now, I would have tweaked things differently. But I sold the same hashtag grateful, hashtag bless, hashtag breathe, hashtag abundance, probably for 5 or 6 years. And then I started to add a few. So it was very interesting to see, the change, but I didn't change. Like I didn't change designs. I added a couple in. Had I changed designs, I probably would be even bigger than it is now. So that's a lesson for me.
So, okay. So, what was the impetus for you to say, all right, I've been doing the blast and a few of these other um, t-shirts, and now I need to make a change. Now I need to do it differently. What happened?
A couple of things. One, the person I was getting my shirts from, there were too many mistakes happening. And then I found another shirt vendor, and same thing was happening. Like they weren't delivering them when they were supposed to. And then really the big push came when one of my girlfriends said to me, Vismaya, you need to do print on demand. This is ridiculous. People want small and you don't have a small and you got to order 25 shirts and then your car looks like a big old, flea market because you're driving around with all this stuff in your car. And I resisted, I resisted, I resisted, I resisted. And I was like, I don't want to do print on demand and I want to have the same style shirt and I want to have it the same exact way. And at that moment, what I realized is that I could want what I want and keep praying and hoping for it to be that way, and nothing would have happened. Or I can find a way to still make beautiful shirts, still find a shirt that's feminine or masculine, because now I have both. It's not the same exact brand of shirt I used before, but it's still quality, it's still great, it's still fabulous. And do the things that I like to do. Like my biggest value is freedom. And I was not feeling free before. So this doing print on demand allows me to be creative. I can work from anywhere. I can, you know, I'm not stuck to a design. If nobody buys a design and I've had it for 5 years, I could pull it down and put it back up. It doesn't matter. And I'm not stuck with inventory. And it was big because I have crew neck shirts now and they were V necks before. And, if I'm going to be really honest here, I have people who say, I don't wear crew necks, I only wear V necks. And I've lost customers. And I've also gained a whole world out there because now I have accessibility to drop ship wherever they are. And that's been beautiful.
So, what is it when people see your shirts that you have created, or they can create a design, right? Energetically, what does it do for someone to wear a shirt that says gratitude or inspire, or what's the most popular saying? Is there a popular saying? Like, what's the most popular thing that people say or want to wear
So
on their chest?
so now I have over 100 designs. So I'm still playing with that, how to answer that, because every time I look at somebody's card, it's something completely different. Um, a lot of gratitudes. I have some that, are about mindset. So those have been pretty popular. Um, I'm still gathering the data on which is the most popular. But to go back to your other question, recently, a friend of mine had a heart attack, and I decided to go to the park, and I was wearing a shirt that said "Happiness is contagious." And most of the
Happiness
people,
is contagious.
yeah. So most of the people walk around the park this way, and it's not a law, but I decided I was going to go the other way. I just wanted to be in the shade more, whatever. So I walk the other way. So people are coming at me as I'm going, towards them. And everybody, I won't say everybody, 90% of the people smiled. They gave me a thumbs up. They go, "You're right. Happiness is contagious." So what I have found time and time and time again when I wear my shirts every day pretty much, is it gives people something to smile about. It gives them something to think about. It puts them in that space of that shirt. Oh, happiness is contagious. Let me smile at somebody. Oh, hashtag grateful. I had people run up to the store, run up to me in stores and go, "What's up, grateful?" High fiving me. When we were no longer in lockdown, I went to the beach the first day we were allowed to be on the beach again. And I was dancing with my shadows, kind of doing my own thing because it was still super early. And a woman came up to me and she saw my shirt that said grateful. And she goes, "Can I hug you?" I was like, "Okay, sure." So I've had crazy responses, amazing responses. And it makes people happy, and especially right now in a world that's chaotic, in a world where you turn on the news and it's not pleasant. My desire, my goal was to add a little bit of joy in the middle of the chaos. We all have opinions about things, and I wanted to make sure that I was not adding to the tension and the negativity. I was adding to something positive and joyful. And that was
Beautiful.
really, really, really big for me. Really big for me.
Well, having, you know, m for I don't know, maybe the last 40 years, my focus has always been on everything is energy, whether it's the colors that you choose, the words that you say, the words that you don't say. It's what you tell yourself. So if you wake up in the morning and you smile and say, "Oh, I'm so grateful today for," and you have a list of things you're grateful for, even if you're not so happy, but you just come up with a few words, somehow you shift. Or if you say life, SUCKS, I don't, can I say that on, then you're starting off your day, and that's how you. So now you put on an old shirt that isn't, it's all crinkly, and you put on, a dirty pair of pants, and you walk outside. And what are you saying to the world? What are you saying to yourself? You know, life really sucks. I'm going to say the word sucks. Okay. But if you decide, I'm not feeling so good today, but I'm going to put on my grateful shirt or, you know, blessed shirt or, smile and the world smiles with you, whatever it is. And you put it on and something happens inside. We don't even realize what happened inside. And not only are you inside taking on that beautiful energy, but everybody that sees you, you're helping all these people that you walk by, right?
Without a doubt.
And so we don't realize how a simple thing, one word, grateful, blessed. I don't know, you tell me.
I have so many. My favorite one, I'm wearing one right now that says, I have to read it to be, it says, when each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. And I love that one. You know, I, that's one of my favorites. They're all my favorites. I have another one with a big eye that says, "Gratitude is the sunshine, is the sunshine of your soul." I have another one that's a huge big light bulb, and it says, "Shine your light." And again, part of the reason that I only do positive messages is I ask myself as I'm creating, I'm like, would I want my nephews walking by and reading this and getting absorbing that energy? And you could say yes, every shirt I have is something that I wouldn't mind a 5-year-old reading, and I wouldn't mind a 55-year-old reading because there's something that's positive and it's going to uplift them.
So would you say that your why, because you know that expression, when you've got a big enough why, the how becomes easy. What is your why? Your nephews, your family, your friends, the world. What's your why?
My why has always been to leave an impact on the world,
To
a
leave an
positive,
impact on the world.
an impact on the world to make, yeah, I think that's my biggest why is to make an impact in the world. Um, I want my life to be meaningful. And sometimes, as an entrepreneur, leaving teaching where I got to impact kids on a regular basis, whether they loved me or didn't, they still were learning, and going into an entrepreneurial world, sometimes it's it's you don't know the impact you're making. So my big why has always been to do something that makes an impact for people.
Beautiful. And there's another expression that says, if you help one person, you save the world.
Right.
And we don't have to make a difference in the whole world. All we need to do is touch one, and that one touches somebody else, right? And so for
Totally.
people that are sitting and listening to this and say, yeah, I'd like to make a difference in this world, or that sounds really great. Um, I don't know where to start. I don't know how to start. How do I get myself out of that? I want to do something, I want to make a difference, but I'm stuck in that place of fear, or I'm not good enough. I don't know. I know, but I don't know anybody. I don't, blah, blah, blah.
So, the first thing I would say is acknowledge where you are. Because if we say to ourselves, "Oh, everything is bright and wonderful and puppies and rainbows," and we're really feeling kind of crappy, that doesn't work. So I think acknowledge where you are, and then the next thing I would say to you is start practicing gratitude. And notice I didn't say, you know, be grateful. I said practice gratitude. And the way you would do that is ask yourself every we walk around with these cell phones every day, right? Set your alarm to go off every 3 to 4 hours. And when your alarm goes off, ask yourself, what are my gratitude wins? Who or what made a difference for me? How did I make the world a little bit brighter? How did I nourish my mind, body, or spirit? What made me smile or laugh until my sides hurt? And sometimes it might be something as silly as I drank a lot more water today, or, I read a book or I read a passage that made my heart happy, or I sat on Instagram and I read, watched some puppy videos that made me giggle. Start to pay attention to those. And then I would write them down, because the more we write them down, we have now this big, you know, journal or big book of all these things that have gone right. So your gratitude journal is separate from anything else. And then, the truth is that some days you may wake up and you're like, oh, nothing good happened. Okay, great. Again, it's okay. So go back 3 to 4 hours later and ask yourself the same questions. And what starts to happen is that you start to change the neural pathways in your brain, because you start to find those magical moments. You start to see those things that happen that you might not have noticed before, because you're telling your brain, hey, start looking for the good stuff. And slowly but surely that starts to take on. And then, you have to be a little disciplined, which is not my favorite word, but discipline leads to freedom. So
Oh, say that again. Discipline
discipline
leads to
leads to
freedom.
freedom.
Oh, I don't like discipline. I'm so undisciplined. But I do have freedom. Would I be more free if I was more disciplined?
In my
Maybe.
world, yes. I can sit on the couch all day and call that freedom, because I don't want to learn something that I have to learn in order to get my shirts, you know, beautiful and the best shirts possible. So my idea of freedom of lounging on the couch because that's what I want to do is not freedom. But being disciplined to sit at the computer when I need to do certain things allows me to have the freedom to do what I really want to do, which is not sit on the couch, but go to Yellowstone and watch the bison roam around and
So is that the opposite of procrastination? I know I should do it. I know it'd be good for me to do it. And yet,
I don't know if it would be the opposite of procrastination. I think it's something like, you know, I know for myself, I don't like authority and I buck the system, and I don't like, I don't like that kind of stuff. So, and here's the other truth is that my whole life I was told I was a genius. So when something is a little challenging for me, I almost shut down. And then I'm staring at them and then I get squirrely and I could do 85 million things. But again, discipline allows me to sit at the computer, listen to the videos, watch the things I need to do, and then practice those things that I've learned. So for me, it's, the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. I was told I was a genius my whole life. And my mother did it because she thought I was a genius. And and the sun rose and set on me. And I look back and it's given me the strength to do a lot of things. And it's also held me back from doing a lot of things. I don't like to look stupid. I don't like to fail. I stress out when things are hard and challenging. And that's my truth. And I still do them anyways, because I also have an understanding now of, you know, what that means. And that's one of the things I would say to my students, like, even though I told them they were the smartest ninth graders, I also, on the flip side, said, we're about to take the state test. Do I want you to pass? Absolutely. Do I want you to get 3, 4, or 5 so that you don't have to deal with this? Absolutely. And if you don't, does that mean you're a dummy? Does that mean you're less than? No. It just means that you didn't do well in this one particular area. So, I would say to people, just start. I have friends who are older than I am, and they're like, oh, but I don't want to do the TikTok and I don't want to do this. And I watch some of these videos of seniors on social media, and they are crushing it. They are funny. They have an audience. And they're not all like subdued grandma. Some of them are F-bombing all over the place and looking like divas. And there's a place and a time for everybody. You just have to give yourself permission to learn and get through the hard stuff.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because when I've had this burning, yearning desire to do this podcast for a number of years now. And it was like, oh, really, Hindi? You know, I'm 75 plus, and there's a lot of things you have to learn, and da 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 da. And do you really need this? And what is it? And I said, absolutely, because if I don't do it, I'm going to be frustrated inside. I'm going to feel like a failure for me, not for anybody else. Nobody is judging, how well I'm doing it, but for me, because I know that these discussions with people like yourself are making a difference in the world. And for those of us that have been in service and really believe in making this world a better place, we can't listen to the noise that's inside of us. That is the fear that holds us back. And you got to do it anyhow. So I'm so thrilled that we had a chance to catch up today. And I will post a link to your Facebook store, or whatever, where they can get wonderful t-shirts and create a t-shirt with you. And thank you for all the years of making a difference in this world. And I just am so grateful that we had a chance to do this today.
Yeah, me too. It's been a long time. I have not done this in a very long time. So when you asked me, I'm very honored and very grateful.
Beautiful. All right, everybody. Another day, another We Win Within. Bye bye.